Hey all, welcome to Geek Freaks, and boy, we have a doozy for you. This episode, as I'm sure you've seen, is already a pretty long one, but guess what? I cut out about 30 minutes of it. So we have the extended cut of this podcast over on our Patreon, and it's completely free. Some of the things that we cut out of this one is talking about Wheel of Time and how it has been canceled after season 3. We also talked with Barry Lyga for an extended cut that's actually coming out on Thursday. And I reviewed the new Lilo and Stitch. All that is going to be available on our Patreon, completely free, so check that out. This episode does still have a ton of stuff to go over, including Squeaks visiting the new San Francisco Nintendo shop and how they are bringing Nintendo to California. We also talk about how Avengers is delaying some movies, Galactus got revealed by Snapple of all people, and we have some major casting announcements and an Elden Ring movie. It's all kinds of good stuff, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's get into some Geek Freaks. Guys, what's your favorite underrated comic book? This is a tough one. I'm going to go and start us off. So, we have a lot of comic creators that hop on the podcast. I love talking to them. And one that has become a true friend over time is Alan Dunford and his Hocus Hocus storyline. And I have truly been invested in this story. So, great, magician who, out on his luck, makes a deal with the devil to actually be able to do magic, then gets burnt out because he's too good at it. And the devil's like, hey, I need your help in hell. And now he's stuck in hell with his magician skills. And it's just a fun romp. It's really well done. So, and it's got great spinoffs too. So that's mine right there is Hocus Hocus. What do you guys got?
There's two that I got that I liked, and I'm really bad at sticking with comic books. I don't go to the comic book shop every week and pick up anything. The only thing I'm kind of consistent with is Saga, and it's because they're so inconsistent as well. Anyways, I got the soft cover trade of a certain comic. It was 8 or 10 issues in one book. It's called Skyward. Have you guys ever heard of that one?
Oh, no.
By Image. It's good. I wish I'd bought. I think they had the second one there and maybe the third. I bought it at a convention, and I should have got all three, but I was trying at the time to find something that's kind of fun and family friendly that I could read with my son.
Mm-hmm.
And this was perfect. It's what would happen if all of a sudden gravity stopped working in the world.
Oh, wow.
And so one of the things is when you fire a gun, all of a sudden you're a projectile going the opposite direction too. And so there's all kinds of weird mechanics you wouldn't really think about with no gravity on Earth, and people have to be tethered or use certain ways to stay down. Anyways, really cool story, but I only got the first, small trade of it, or I don't know what you call it when it's not a big hard book, but so that's a good one. Second one is similar story. Sea of Stars is another Image comic run that's space sci-fi, but with a dad and his kid, and they get separated out in space, but very kid friendly. So I got most of those ones, but you know how it is where I'm missing 2 in the middle somewhere, and now it kind of ruins the whole collection.
Out of me. That's why I'm trying to just stick with trades now. And my local comic book shop, the one Cars and Comics, stuff like that, I just need a new comic book shop, man. They don't have certain ones in. They don't do trades at all. And so it's so hard to stay consistent with them. I'm thinking about actually just kind of becoming, I hate to say this as much as we're pushing for local comic book shops, subscribing online. Like DC and Marvel now do that, so it's hard to not do that,
Yeah. Have you gone to the one in Lodi that I go to?
That's a little bit of a drive for the weekly thing. I do need to go just because of the actual trades. So, because I'm not going as often for that. So, yeah, I need to do that. What's the name of that one, by the way?
Yeah. That is Grapevine Comics.
Need to go down. Check that out.
Yeah. Have you checked out Launchpad, John?
Yeah. I just don't like them as much. They're a little more professional, and they have, more the D&D minifigs and stuff like that, more variety. But I don't know. And they're not terribly impersonable, but
they're pretty quiet,
the other place better.
Yeah, I haven't been to Grapevine in so many years.
I did have a Launchpad pull list set up, and they're the ones that, because Saga's so inconsistent, I was just let me know. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll send you a text. He did the first time, and then after that, I never got a text when any other issues came out. So I went 3 issues without being up to date.
Customer service.
But luckily, he didn't have them, but I went to Grapevine, and they had those issues there ready for me.
There you go. You just changed gear.
This is the plug.
Better. Squeaks, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep peachy because I have another one, but I don't know. It's very talkable. But I have one, and I don't really think it's underrated. I'm not too sure, but I haven't really heard much talk about it. And it was done in some years ago now, 2021 maybe, I don't know, or less than that, or before that. But I like the rise of Kylo Ren.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I haven't heard so much people talk about it, but this is like where, hey, the hate that we get for the sequels because of storytelling and whatnot,
Mhm.
it's replaced by comics and novels or whatever.
Yeah.
This story is actually really sweet. Maybe like a kind of a big fan of Kylo Ren, really, where we kind of see like the events of, oh my god, Luke Skywalker like trying to like attack him while he's sleeping, and then he runs away, and then he's on the hunt with two other Jedis, or like three other Jedis are chasing him. Well, he joins this crew that's the Knights of Ren, so that you kind of see like how this Ren thing came about. Well,
Yeah.
the leader originally was a guy named Ren, so he kind of took over that name, and Sith stuff happens, right? He kind of kills him, but in whatever turn of events, I became a big fan of this, where I just had to buy the Ren helmet itself from
Jesus.
Disneyland. So it's still in the box.
course
I
you
haven't
did.
opened it yet.
Of course.
But
you
Ren
did.
is a pretty cool character. I mean, he
Yeah.
has his helmet, like no shirt on, and he's basically like, "Hey, I don't care about anyone. I'm just here for profit." And him and the knights go and do whatever jobs that are needing to be done. But
That's dope. Yeah.
but yeah, man, I really like these side stories of the sequels, or the stories of the sequels that kind of build the characters that we see in the
Yeah.
movies. The way better storytelling than what we've seen on screen.
100. It has to be.
Yeah,
Frankly.
yeah.
Yeah, they have a new Star Wars here that just started up that is following immediately after. No, episode 6. Boy, I tell you, they're starting great, guys. But yeah, it's a new series. It's like just like what's Luke Skywalker gonna do now that Darth Vader's gone and stuff. So, I need to pick up those and start reading into those too. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Squeaks, you're such a Disneyland aficionado. Have you gotten your 70th anniversary key yet?
The one where you stick in the keyholes.
Yeah.
Right. So I buy a lot of stupid shit, but this is one thing I'm not gonna buy.
For
I
real?
just don't think. I don't know. I already seen the hack too, where you could just unlock them all.
Right.
But I just think that's kind of dumb, especially when you're
I
waiting in
hella
line
want
for
that
so
thing.
long just to stick it in there.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot
so
of
if I'm
people.
seeing his though, that's pretty bad.
Well, there's a
Okay,
lot
you
of
saw
people
this
that are like
massive
going to the
helmet.
park and using their entire day just waiting in line to unlock them. But I mean, I would just use the
Yeah.
hack to unlock it all. But it plays music from the park. That's the thing I want.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the scenes like when you stick in there. There's like
Yeah, like bubbles and
the
stuff.
setup that they have that
Mhm.
looks pretty cool. I saw the stagecoach for like the Frontierland one where it
Yeah.
lights up and people are sitting in there and the bubbles pop up, but yeah, I don't think so.
All right. Well, if you do, when you go back down there in a couple weeks, I'm sure that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Let me know so I can,
yeah,
so you
actually.
can give me one.
I've been talking to John about it so we can do like a family trip.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into some of our news. Go over to Disney. They just delayed two major the two Avengers movies, those bastards, by 7 months. Okay, so here's the thing. First off, Doomsday is now coming out December 18th, 2026. Sorry, John, Miguel, I know it's your birthday, but that's what I'm going to be doing. And then Secret Wars is being pushed back to May 7th, 2027. 7 months each. Now,
Which
the
is
key-
Anthony's birthday, so fuck him too.
Sorry, Aunt. So now, that's wild. But now, this means that the Spider-Man movie, which was supposed to be taking place during Doomsday, and is going to be in between both these movies, is now going to be taking place before the Avengers. Will they change the story at all? Are they close enough to where they could kind of mess around with that? What do you guys think? Or will they allow Spider-Man to introduce Doomsday? Or Doctor Doom? That would be wild to me.
I think Spider-Man being a more ground level hero, any interaction with Doom was just going to be in the background. He's going to be, destroying the city maybe, but Spider-Man's worried about like just saving the people in his neighborhood. So I think hopefully it's detached enough that it doesn't, ruin anything. They wouldn't have it come out early and it really ruin the story anyways, the plot, but it makes sense that they're kind of on different levels to me.
Especially with the recent reset for Spider-Man, right? Like normally we had a reset, you would actually bring in another actor, but they kept Tom Holland, thank God. And so part of this reset, part of Secret Wars, matter of fact, in the comic books is when the symbiote suit first popped up, the black suit.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what they'll do is they'll use this Spider-Man movie to introduce symbiote suit to him, and then he'll use that in the fight in the next Avengers movie, much like the last time he got the Tony Stark suit and was using that one. So maybe that'll be kind of his upgrade this time go around.
And we could do still some multiverse stuff where we're watching a different version of Spider-Man, and then when all the multiverses collapsed, we fall back into the one that we want, or vice versa. They end up, oh no, Tom Holland died, and then it all collapses, and
I think
Tobey
Marvel
Maguire's
is.
the regular
I think
one.
somebody at Marvel was like, "Don't you say multiverse one more time.
Right.
We have to be very careful with that shit because it's starting to really burn out people." So I think the only multiverse Spider-Man shenanigans is that's how we get Miles Morales. I think that's kind of the key with that one. So I don't know if they want to burn up like, oh, we're gonna bring in a Tom Holland, somebody we already have, when they know they're going to do that with Miles Morales because that's part of the comics.
Would this be a good time to make a whole Spider-Man movie that is Miles Morales, building out his character, and then when the multiverses collapse, that's how he gets merged with...
That's how it's supposed to happen. Yeah, because I believe it's like the Ultimates universe is where Miles Morales was first from, and then when they combined everything after the old Secret Wars, that's when they brought the one from the 2000s. They brought in Miles into the main universe, and that's why the two are together. They need to do that because I think that character's so awesome. They have to cast it perfectly, though. That's the tricky part.
Ooh. Who would you cast for him?
I know.
That'll be maybe we'll put it up on our website. Have people vote.
It's really tricky because so much of his identity is in his mom and dad. One African American, the other one Puerto Rican. You have to really make sure you nail that casting. I'm immediately thinking of the kid from, and this is like an animated kid, so it's not gonna work. But from Welcome to or whatever the Encanto movie, that one kid that's like, I love that voice actor
with the curly hair.
Yeah. That's not gonna work. But yeah. Squeaks, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, my thing is a little worrisome if they have to redo a couple scenes of Spider-Man to not give away any spoilers for what's to come after. So hopefully that doesn't like mess anything up. I wouldn't mind seeing like, hey, like we talked about the multiverse stuff, but like somehow, because I would like to see Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen in there. And it's only because they've doing like these other like kid shows like Spidey and Friends, and those are the trio. So I wouldn't mind seeing that trio like on the big screen where it's more recognizable to the younger audience. And plus we see, basically Spider-Gwen in the Spider-Verse anyway. Super overrated movies. But maybe like I guess that's how maybe you end like that Spider-Man and then it leads up to Doomsday. But yeah, my only worrisome one, it's a big delay, so that kind of is BS, right? It's literally just the very end of the year when we thought we were going to get it like the first of
it's
the
7
year.
months though, like
That's a long time, man.
7. But the thing I'd like to point out to you real fast is we're also getting basically 2 Avengers movies because they're doing the Matrix thing, or like I think Harry Potter did this as well, where it's like they're months apart from each other. They're not years apart from each other. So in a way, it's not too bad because you're going to get boom, boom right off the bat. Kind of nice.
But what do we think? It's because they want to add things, or it's because some things are adding up because maybe they put themselves in this multiverse mess up?
Well, they also canceled 3 Untitled movies. Untitled, I think, is because they didn't have a full name for Blade, but probably Blade.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, guys, whatever.
Yeah, it's done.
It's such a damn shame. They should make a series out of it. Okay, back to the point. So I think what it is the schedule was too tight. Like, I think they were probably wanting to not burn out their CGI. It would be really nice if they take this time to be like, hey, remember those old CGIs you guys really used to like and how you guys have been bitching about Ant-Man? Here you go. And really clean it up. What the hell? I'd rather have less movies if that's the case.
Yeah. The push is whatever. But yeah, a little concerning if Spider-Man has to do retakes to try to fit into what's to come after.
So Frank, the actor that played that voice in Encanto you're talking about, do you know who the actor is? Do you remember from anything else? So in The Penguin, he was the Penguin's like right-hand man that he ended up killing, who looks very much the part. And as long as he has the acting range, which this would be a good test of, I think he'd be great for that character. And he is Afro-Latino.
Son of a bitch. Did we just solve it? Oh my God.
Renzi Feliz.
Somebody, I got Bob Iger on speed dial. Let me talk.
There you go.
All right. Talking about Marvel, we got the Galactus reveal. So Galactus, man, I was really worried about this. I don't want them to pull off that old thing where he's like a cloud in the sky. So then we saw some slight visuals of him. Okay, he's looking very comic book accurate. His size is varied. That's just Galactus. That's how he is. Snapple of all people, because whatever. They accidentally spoiled it. By the way, Funko spoiled something else too. We're not going to say exactly what. It's on the website if you want to see it though. And I know that Squeaks tries to say spoiler free.
And the trailer spoiled all that too.
I spoiled it for myself.
Did you? Okay. Well, the trailer didn't spoil.
It hinted at it, I guess.
Right. Anyway, so we have a full visuals of Galactus. I think it looks really solid. I mean, honestly, as good as you can without being ridiculous.
Galactus is already ridiculous. So
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, well, you think that's bad, John. You know how they beat Galactus in the first go around? No. He has a device called the Ultimate Nullifier or something Nullifier. And they go to his ship. They get it. It's literally like a switch that just like nullifies things. And they threaten Galactus with it. And he said, leave. We have your Nullifier. And he's like, okay. and he leaves.
Like, I just insert. Okay.
Wow. It's like, I'll be back with my nullifier.
Exactly.
I'll have a remote to turn that one off.
It's so silly, but I kind of hope that at some point they do have a nullifier involved or whatever, which is because it's one of those things that's like so freaking early comics where it's like, we have this random sci-fi device. I remember very well the panel of Reed Richards holding it up to Galactus and he's like, oh no, that's the thing. So
That's crazy.
Yeah. What did you guys think about these new images that they got out?
I think Galactus looks phenomenal. I think he looks near perfect, really.
Yeah.
The Funko one is pretty interesting. And I think that's what maybe like in the next, I don't know, just I guess at the end, maybe like, oh hey, here it is. Or what do you
But
think?
for them to have a Funko for it, I think he's good. Shit. Should we just say what it is?
Yeah, might as
Might as
well.
well.
Okay.
The
I
rest of
think-
the internet knows.
So we know that she's pregnant. We see that she actually has the baby within the movie. So Anne has a little suit on. I think he might be like Jax in The Incredibles, where he might show some
Jack,
little
yeah.
power, and he's like, "Oh shit, we can't control this little dude that's like creating realities," which is something that Franklin Richards can do. So what if like they're fighting and it's getting tough, and all of a sudden like this little baby boy is bouncing around, and all of a sudden like, whoop, look at who dimension, something like that.
Okay. So you think we'll actually get like actual screen time with the baby?
With it being a Funko Pop, the baby has a Funko Pop. I would presume
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
What do you think, Jonathan? Is this Galactus believable to you?
So I never read the comics with Galactus in it. So seeing him in any form is like, oh my God, what is this? This overly ridiculous character that they created with this stupid helmet and stuff like that. I did as controversial. I always have to have a controversial opinion, I think.
That's fine. We need
But
it.
I liked the cloud version of him that seemed like a moving
Too
giant
controversial
god
now.
eating planets.
Yeah.
It made so much more sense than this guy that grows and shrinks and still has a helmet and he must eat because he has a mouth and he's a humanoid. Does he have a planet of a bunch of people just like him? What is it?
So he has a really actually pretty badass backstory, I will say. This, I believe, is the 7th iteration of the universe. Like it keeps, like basically the Big Bang keeps happening. That's a long story. He survived one of those, so he's from another version of a universe. And part of this whole survival thing is that he has to constantly consume, and he doesn't want to eat planets, but he has to. And so, like a lot of the Galactus stuff comes from the Herald of Galactus stuff. So you Silver Surfer, or later on when it's like Ghost Rider or Thor or whomever, that's when you get a lot of Galactus story. So he actually, to me, he's cooler than you might presume just by the looks of this giant dude walking through New York. Maybe I'll do like one of those Who Is videos or something.
Backstory,
break down the backstory. But yeah, he does the shifting size thing. To me is funny because it's basically because different comic book artists were doing it, and they're like, this time he knocks down the Empire State Building. This time he chews on Moon. And it's like, well, those are two different sizes. You can't do both.
So how does he eat a planet? Does he just grow big enough that he pops it in his mouth?
It just kind of like vacuums into his mouth. Like he's like it disintegrates the planet into his mouth, basically.
So he has some kind of energy to dissolve it or something like that.
Right.
Magic.
It is literally like Kirby vibe. Yeah, he does.
I'm wearing a
literally.
shirt right now. It's good. Okay.
There we go. All right. So yeah, it's getting pushed off. We got Galactus. There's things going on from Marvel. All right, Squeaks, let's talk to you. Let's have you go then. Let's talk about Elden Ring.
I didn't think this was actually going to happen, but now, it really is now because we got a director. But this Elden Ring movie, what do we got? We got Alex Garland is going to be the director, writing the story, right?
Writing and directing,
writing and directing. So I don't know. So I'll talk a little bit of maybe like what expectations of what this could be, how it should be really. Basically, the Elden Ring is like backstory is set between like this the lands between, and it's ruled by a Queen Marika.
Okay.
And then it's like governed by this source called the Elden Ring, metaphysical source. And it's something, get this. So what happens is the Elden Ring gets shattered, right? And they called it, hear it out, the Shattering. Okay, that's what it's called. So,
George R. R. Martin had a hand in writing this, no doubt.
shoot. So basically the Shattering, what happens is that the Elden Ring is shattered, right? And the world is plunged into chaos, and like Marika's, I'm saying it probably totally wrong, demigods are like off, right? So some of the big ones, like we see Godric and Radon, just like over the world, whatever.
Do they get corrupted or are they just loose?
They're just loose.
Okay.
So essentially they are like this whole like chaos in you. It's called as a tarnish, stripped of being a tarnish, whatever, of your grace, and you're being called back. So I'm assuming, right, that's what it's going to be. You're going to see this one like really weak warrior hopefully come out of a dungeon or cavern butt naked and just trying to like swing shitty ass weapons till you get super geared up, right?
But the goal of that character is to
defeat
all the gods and like save.
Yeah. So basically,
Okay.
like restore order, restore
see.
like the golden order. So if you're doing like, I guess that's a more like generic ending, right? There's multiple endings, but you could like restore the golden order, usher in what they call like the age of the stars, becoming like the lord of the flames. So it's kind of we'll probably just get like restoring order, right?
Yeah, that seems simple enough.
and
Yeah.
whatever. That's kind of like what's expected to be of Elden Ring, because it's really not too much. It
It's not
doesn't
a
seem
big
like it's too explained,
Which
right?
is wild because,
Yeah.
again, George R. R. Martin did actually help write the story. So you'd think it would be overly detailed.
A little different from like normal FromSoft games, right? Because you're usually just thrown in there and you're like, okay, learn to play, right?
That's true.
And that's kind of what Elden Ring is too. So when you're like, oh man, you're gonna make a movie about this, oh man, I gotta like really remember or look up what this was even about anyway. So I mean, what do we kind of like want to see with this? Obviously monsters, right? We want them to look beautiful.
Yeah.
You know,
I would love to see the
Guillermo del Toro
A24
level.
thing. Have you seen Green Knight by A24?
Is that the one with the like the guy in the tuxedo with the car?
No. It's a
That's
fantasy.
Green Hornet.
No, that's Green. Oh my God. What
Seth
a,
Rogen.
Jesus Christ.
That's,
No.
that's hilarious.
Well, yeah. God, I can't remember his name for the Slumdog Millionaire. I can't remember his name. Son of a gun. But yeah, it's the Green Knight. It's a okay story. I mean, it's very old school fantasy. It's shot beautifully. And so this is going to be done by A24. It's going to be done by Alex Garland, who
It's
makes a ton of A24 movies.
Yeah.
I think that's
Civil
a
War movie.
highlight.
Did you guys watch that
He
one?
made Civil War.
I loved that movie.
He made that movie.
Yeah.
So hopefully, and he made 28 Days Later. He made Ex
28.
Machina.
28 years later is coming soon too, guys. I don't know if he's involved in that. But
He's making that one too.
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait for that.
So
Yeah,
I
so
kind of
you're-
think that's a
yeah.
highlight to me that it's going to be made by him and A24. You don't think so, Squeaks?
I'm just not the biggest A24 fan. There has been new movies that's been
Donkulous.
coming out that I been watching. Well, what started was Hereditary, and you can't say that's like the scariest movie ever. That movie was dog shit. Okay. To me,
Yeah.
that's a hot take, I guess, because I guess everybody loves this movie. It's not fucking good. So
Hot take alert.
but you know, they've been making some movies that I've been impressed with, some like romance comedies and stuff like that I kind of been dabbling in my
Yeah,
toes in.
Midsummer I thought was a good horror for them.
Dog shit. So
Oh my-
anyway.
What?
So but yeah, I have no like doubt in like Alex's like credibility and whatever, he'll make it.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see like, okay, what are you gonna make from almost like nothing when you're playing the game, you know? I mean,
Maybe they'll have to make a new story that just fits in that world.
Yeah.
But I was hoping to kind of, because again, like I'm not good enough to play that game. I
Mhm.
tried. I'm in the starting zone. I came across not the first boss, the first
Yeah.
thing, and it was like, okay, I guess I'm not playing this.
Yeah,
Luckily, I'm
yeah.
within the 2 hours to return this bad boy because that's happening. Yeah,
yeah.
I got
Yeah,
rocked.
yeah. So I wonder. I mean, we'll probably get like the big bosses, right? That everybody's just gonna go like fucking crazy for.
I would
That's
assume
the
that
most
one
popular ones.
That has the arm that removes. Is that the queen? I don't know who that is, but that's like their poster child for a character. I assume that's going to be like the one they'll use for this too, because that feels like a very A24-esque character.
Yeah, yeah. We're thinking it's kind of like a not all the time, but certain like parts of the world are like dark and whatnot. So the CGI
Yeah.
should be pretty decent, right? I'm assuming.
Really, it feels.
Or
The
can we
more we're
use
talking about it, I
practical
think more like
effects?
Green Knight. What was that?
Yeah. Or practical effects, maybe. But a lot of these monsters are like massively big, so
They can't use practical
Yeah.
effects for those. Yeah.
yeah.
Unless they get
I
real
don't know.
creative with it. It'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. For like the hero itself, what do you want to see? Like a warrior, magic, or what do we want to do?
I think Warrior's easiest,
Yeah.
and it's what they've done in the past. But I would
Mhm.
like for them to go. There's like a celestial class, right? That's like the priests or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
That would be interesting. Something different than we see in any other fantasy.
yeah. I think really I want to see some like teases of things. So like the weapons
references maybe. Yeah.
weapons I use are definitely what's the term? Like bloodshed. It's basically like a bleed ability.
Okay.
So if it's like something that's not obviously like too like thrown in your face, you know, but if you see like you cut someone and they're like continuously bleeding and they're being affected by that, you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck yeah, I know what's going on here, you know.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited for this thing. I mean, if we see like this be successful, then maybe we could get into Dark Souls. Dark Souls has like manga and stuff out there too, so like stories already written for Dark Souls.
Bloodborne to me has the coolest looking world. I would love to learn more
Oh
about
man,
Bloodborne.
yeah. I know people are going nuts because they can't just port Bloodborne onto like a
It's wild.
better resolution.
Such a huge
frame rates.
call for that too.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Speaking of casting, though.
Yeah.
This is my perfect segue.
Nailed it. Oh, nailed it. Perfect. Oh my God. This is why Squeaks does them all. Go for it.
Did you hear about Hunger Games?
He's died. Let's
Such
go
a good
ahead.
segue killed him.
Yeah, it was so good.
man.
Let's put that on the tombstone. Nailed the segue, died in his chair. It was perfect.
Murdered by perfect segue.
Hey, backstory though. Frank was like, "What do you guys want to take on here? You know, what do you guys want to take on?" I'm like, "I don't take on anything. I just ask questions. I answer
We're
questions."
trying to broaden everybody's reach, okay? We're trying to make sure everybody takes a little bit more of the pie. Squeaks is like, well, I got these two and these two, which happen to be next to each other. Not a great move. And then he's like, how do you say that Culkin's name? So let's see if he nails it. Oh, he's confident to death. Guys, he's done. Holy sh! While he returns to life, I'll step in and go with the Street Fighter while he does this thing. So Street Fighter movie just cast 4 major people. No, you weren't. First up, Andrew Koji, who he did Warrior, which is a Netflix and HBO series that everybody really liked. Noah
I'm sure they did.
Centineo. Yes, they did, you bastard. Yeah, Centineo. We got Roman Reigns from wrestling. He's from the WWE. And then we have Jason Momoa from everything else. I would like to see... Okay, so it has to be somebody somewhat Brazilian, but I think Roman Reigns would be a really cool Blanca. And Blanca's the guy I play. The green dude that does electricity. You know? I think he'd be good for Blanca.
No, that's so stupid.
Are you done dying? I don't want you to respond unless you're done dying.
It takes like that. I'm like, whatever. No, I better see Roman Reigns doing his like signature wrestling moves. Okay, I want to see that motherfucker.
So who's he gonna play? Who's he gonna play? At a Street Fighter.
I don't know, because when you're casting Jason Momoa and like Roman Reigns, I'm kind of thinking you're just making original characters. I don't see them being anyone, to be honest.
That would be stupid. If you're not going to be casting I mean, come on, Street Fighter's known for its really iconic characters.
I know, but then you're adding like a real like wrestler type character. I can see him come in for like a scene, kind of like Fast and the Furious, or no, Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Yeah.
Where he pops up at the end. Which, by the way, hot take, Fast and Furious are just greater than Impossible Mission movies or whatever, Mission Impossible movies. Anyway.
Why do I invite you? Why are you on this show?
Anyway.
Wild.
Anyway, I just, what's wild to see Roman Reigns as a Blanca. Like, what? You might as well just have him be Chun-Li. Okay. But yeah, if you're talking about Roman Reigns and Jason Momoa being characters of Street Fighter, I have absolutely no clue then. Like, I have
so much input. I really appreciate you making sure to shit on my thing.
Saying
and not
what you're saying is
anything to
completely wrong, but the right answer, you'll never know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Jonathan, how about you?
Yeah. So I'm even worse. So I don't know any of the Street Fighter characters. So
There you go.
I don't even have a jumping off point.
So where we're currently at is Blanca's the best option for Roman Reigns then.
Sounds like it.
I mean, I guess.
When you cast Jason Momoa, are you just making this a comedy then?
Yeah.
Man.
Well, have you seen him act in anything serious? I can't think of anything he's done.
He's Khal
very
Drogo
well.
in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So he has played serious in the past. I don't know if he would anymore.
I mean, Aquaman's kind of serious in the first one, right? You know?
Yeah, but he made it a joke. Like he joked around more than I think Aquaman normally would. But Aquaman, he's a serious one compared to like the Flash. So it's hard when he has his own standalone story. They have to have somebody doing comedy.
Yeah, that's a good point though. Khal Drogo, that's like. He's like he's rebranded since then though. He seems like a totally different person now.
It's true.
I wonder if Jason Momoa is Blanca for the fact that he's playing Lobo. And I mean, if you kind of like just hunch Lobo over,
yeah,
kind of looks like
he does
Blanca,
good with Lobo.
Yeah, but if you're gonna have Jason Momoa, you need him to talk. And like Roman Reigns, he doesn't talk a lot. All he says is like, "I'm The Rock's cousin. Give me money." And so that's basically what he says.
Wow.
Hot takes again, baby.
Oh shoot.
I'm not a big Roman Reigns fan, I'll admit.
Man.
Yeah.
So this Kieran Culkin thing.
All right, here we go. We got him done coughing, guys. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of casting individuals in movies, we got another cast for Hunger Games, which is going to be a phenomenal movie as the book is, which I'm hoping Frank finally finished that thing.
I had to read another book, which I'm almost done with, and I'm coming back to that one. Yeah. So.
What book is this?
So let's not talk shit
reading?
because we literally interviewed them. New Rock,
Okay.
New Rule by Richard Sparks. It's a
Oh,
500-page
phenomenal
book.
book.
Thank you. And I'm
Phenomenal.
almost done. And so, yes, let's go ahead and continue with Kieran Culkin.
So anyway, yeah, he's casted as oh my gosh, Caesar Flickerman.
Okay, nailed it.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, which is the guy that does
I
like the
read that name multiple
presenting
times.
for the Hunger Games. He's
Yeah.
played by Tucci beforehand, and very kind of like
Like the host.
the host. He's very like a big personality. Which I think is Kieran.
Grandiose.
Yeah, when Kieran's like not acting, that's how he is. So hopefully he has fun with his role. I think it'll be blessed.
Yeah, because what do we see Mr. Culkin in that we can kind of be like, yeah, this is the right guy for the role?
Right. Normally he
Nothing.
doesn't play wild. I mean, he does kind of. He's the wildest on Succession, but even that is very subdued. But when you
Mhm.
see him like at Emmys and stuff like that, he is very big personality, and I think that fits pretty well for this.
Yeah. And he's always in front of the camera, this Flickerman guy,
Yeah.
in front of individuals like on a stage like that. So it might work out pretty well if that's how he is in the Emmys, right? It's
Yeah.
essentially almost the same thing.
Any
so.
interview or whatever, he's really kind of almost blowing it off kind of personality. He's
Yeah.
just really joking the entire time, and I think that
Yeah.
kind of works well for how Tucci played Flickerman in the past.
And we have Effie casted as well. And I know I don't have the name on top of my head. So it almost seems like we're wrapping up this.
Should be filming. They
casting thing.
casted both the twins too, but there was no names. I forgot.
Mm,
But both the
Mm.
twins from the beginning and stuff like that, they casted them. So it is rounding out pretty quickly. It's going to be good.
yeah. I'm excited for this.
I
one.
really hope we have a Woody Harrelson cameo at least to kind of be like,
Well, if you finish the book, there might be. So
okay.
I know.
All right. So while we're on the topic of casting, I want to shift over to Avatar. We got
Segue.
new casting for season 2 of the Netflix live action Avatar series.
Yeah.
Damn, that's still going.
Yeah. Oh, still going.
And it's the first one.
Oh, it's very good. Very good. If you guys haven't watched it yet, go watch Avatar. If you see M. Night Shyamalan, just delete that one, but go watch the
Yeah.
Netflix live action one.
100%.
So I want to go through some of the characters and who's playing them. There's a new character named Faye. I started Googling, like, who's Faye? Who's Faye? I couldn't figure it out. That's because it's a new character. Makes more sense. Played by Madison Who.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to not butcher names, by the way. Don't kill me.
I watched all the how to pronounces on these, so I'll try to correct you if I can.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we got Lily Gao, I think, is going to be playing Ursa, which is Zuko and Azula's mom.
Yeah, which her story really kind of gets fleshed out in the comics. Hopefully they bring in a little bit of that.
Oh, I hope so. Or spin-off series or something like that to tell that. I hope at some point we get to the comic books and not just the Avatar series.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good story in the comics. We have Terry Chen is going to be playing Zhang Zhang.
Yeah.
Which is the fire master that tries to train Aang at some point. He's also a member of the Order of the White Lotus, which is just awesome. Let's see, we have Dolly De Leon is going to be playing Lo and Lai, which they are like advisors, I guess, to
Azula. They're hella
Azula.
creepy.
Yeah,
They're so creepy. I never cared for their characters.
She's already psychotic as it is, and they will like just encourage her, like, but I guess to try to help her maintain power. I'm imagining a situation where it's like, I'm just gonna go and burn down that whole village to kill the leader, and they would say something like, oh, if you burn the whole village, you lose all those working hands, but if you go and take the children from the leader, he will do what you say, or something like that, and like just keep them in prison. And it's like, that's so wicked, but that's exactly what they are. It's just wicked people. So
yeah, you know what? Maybe they'll amplify that, because like Zuko is kind of trying to bring her to the mom's side, where it's like, hey, you don't have to be insane. And then like these two are really trying to pull towards the Fire Lord side. It's like, let's be insane. Yeah. So
exactly. And later we learn why this brother and sister are so different, and the dad is such a psychopath. But it's good. And then we see Dechen Lachman, I believe, is her name, is playing close enough. Is playing Avatar Yen Chang, which is the last Earthbender Avatar.
Airbender.
I'm sorry, you're right. Airbender Avatar. He uses the big fans and stuff like that. They have a statue of her in one of the cities in the show too. Yeah, maybe it's in Legend of Korra.
Yeah, it's in Avatar. I think I remember them visiting it. It's a little town. They have a ceremony for it too.
Oh, that's right. And such an awesome character. I'm glad that they have a good actress. She was in Severance. She was also in Altered Carbon.
Oh, I forgot about
Ooh.
Altered Carbon. She was in that. Yeah, Severance, of course, she plays the wife, Adam Scott's wife.
Yeah. Miss Casey and Gemma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Anyway, so it's cool to see that, I'm hoping that means that her character, Yang Chen is going to be featured a little bit more than we see in the
Maybe
TV
that'll
show.
be, maybe Aang will visit her more often for advice.
Yeah, maybe more so than, was it the previous
Ozai.
Firebender?
No, that's Fire Lord Ozai.
Yeah.
We don't, that's right, John.
Gosh,
Too
why
many
can we
names
not
right now.
remember?
That's okay. You're good.
Yeah. But yeah, in the show, he revisits his former avatar states
Lives.
lives. There you go. And the Firebender is the most common one that he would talk to, which we can't remember the name right now, but it's cool to see that maybe he'll visit her more or just various different ones. So we also have some casting for season 3, which, obviously looks like they're working on both at the same time.
So they finished season 2. That wrapped. It's coming out. It's wrapped. Season 3, they're beginning right now. They just started filming season 3. Okay. So there's not a long wait.
So we have Tantoon Cardinal, who actually, I watched the movie Killers of the Flower Moon. She was in that. She's going to be playing Hama, which, if you guys remember, is the bloodbender.
Such a horror moment in Avatar, yeah.
Katara somehow gets like, I don't remember how they find each other, but I think she gets trapped. I think she's captured.
And I think she's like trying to look for like healing advice, right? She's looking for somebody to teach her better healing waterbending.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that Alma can do. But then also is like, yeah, but I'm also like a witch.
We have to secretly fight the Fire Nation any way we can. And so this is what she does.
Oh, man.
And
I love when, I think it's Katara when that's the moment when she like pulls the water out of the leaf or out of the grass around her to fight her. Yeah. It's such a sick moment.
Because she teaches her that kind of stuff. She's like, well, you don't have to be next to the lake or a river. There's water in everything around you. Everything that lives needs water to live. And so she's taking the water out of the mice and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, man, that's crazy. That's dark, but it's also brilliant, and you can use it to your benefit when you need to.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that character, but that's not going to be till season 3. So we got a little time. And then John Briones, I think Briones is going to be playing Piandao.
Hey, good. Hey, no, you did good.
That's right, Piandao. Okay.
Yeah, that was the hardest one for me to remember.
But so I remember definitely him in the show. He's the one that trained Sokka in sword fighting and stuff like that, and later built the sword that he made with that meteor rock, which makes a black sword, which is dope. So his
what
trainer.
An important character for like upgrading Sokka, because at that point Sokka's like, he's a leader, but he feels so underpowered compared to all the benders around him. And then once he gets that sword, it's like, oh, okay, now he's awesome.
Yeah, I love when you go back and rewatch the show with his character in mind, because he seemed like nobody most of the time, but when you're paying attention to it, it's like he is learning how to strategize and how to plan their attack, and everybody else is just kind of like, well, I don't know what we're gonna do, and he's like, okay, well, we need to flank them. We have to get around this side, and we got to make sure we leave this way open. And he does kind of plan stuff out, and there's times their plans fail, but he learns from that, and then a few episodes later, you see how he has to make a plan that changes because of what they learned from the last time. So it's as though he seems like such a insignificant character, he actually does play a bigger role than it seems like, I think.
Yeah. That's some solid casting. I'm excited to see your bloodbending for sure.
Got a question for both of you, actually.
What you got?
So obviously, the season 2 is dropping, so they already have I guess people for season 3 then. So this is played out. Do we know how many seasons this is gonna be, essentially?
Hopefully they just keep going.
Yeah.
Because
hopefully 3 seasons. I hate to be that guy.
Yeah.
I hope it stays tight like it does for the animated version as well. Because I don't want them. I'd rather them like go 3 seasons tight and then start a new series that's like based off of comic books and not botch the ending. Because the ending to me in Avatar is phenomenal. Like when they have that big battle and he does the change. Don't mess that up. I don't want them to be like, well, we want to keep the Fire Lord around.
Yeah. So my question then is, since I haven't really finished the first one, so this is on the spot too, so sorry if it's too hard of a question. Is there something that you want to see that's not in the animated series that's a story to be put into this one? So like you brought up the comics and stuff, but is there something in the outside source of the animated series that you would like to see in this one?
There's a lot of good stories in the comics. So honestly, if they wanted to stretch this story out and make the story of Avatar's, the story of Aang, like becoming the Avatar into 6 seasons, they really could. There's plenty of material to put in between. It would take a little bit of rewriting to have it end at a season end each time. You know,
do you have a favorite story of that?
So the ones we were kind of hinting at was Zuko's mom and the backstory behind her. She was, you know, essentially taken from them and disappeared, and he was raised by his dad, who was the Fire Lord, who was just literally insane and vicious and, you know, just blood hungry. And so in the comics, you find that where she's at and that she's safe. But then you also find out his backstory and why Zuko's not like his dad. And he was always felt ashamed of not being, you know, fierce, not willing to kill like his dad's willing to kill. His dad calls him weak and stuff like that. So major spoilers. If you guys haven't read the comics, go read them first. But we find out in that his dad isn't his dad. His mom fell in love with
my mind.
Yeah, his mom fell in love with an artist or
I wasn't expecting that bombshell.
An actor. Yeah. So he has this soft heart of his actor father that his mom was in love with back in their small village, but she was taken. The Fire Lord of the time came through town pretty much and said, "Yep, that's a good one for my son. So I'm going to take her, and she's going to be blessed with the opportunity to be pretty much the queen, but she or a princess." But she's like, I didn't want that. But if I say no, you know, my whole village gets burned to the ground. So I kind of got to go with them. But the whole time, that's why she had this special connection with her son and not so much with her daughter, because her daughter was born from this monster and her son was born from true love. So
damn. It's like the comics are just being like Star Wars one I mentioned earlier. The comics are just fucking deep. You know?
One of the first ones and one of my favorites is the story of like when they're first starting in the Republic City. And it's a small village where they're like, okay, well, Fire Nation's beat. Everybody go back. You know, you're fine. Fire Nation, get off of the earth and land. But there's this little town where they invaded like first or whatever. And the fire people and the earth people have intermarried and they have families together. And like, oh, my dad's firebender. My mom's there. It's just fine. And so when suddenly it's like, you guys have to get off this land. And it's like, well, no, we belong here because we've been here so long. And it's my wife that's over there. And so then it's a confrontation where Zuko, being the new Fire Lord, has to be like, this is where we have to make a stand. Like, we have to do this here. And him and Aang are on opposite sides all of a sudden. And so it's like, holy, are we about to start another war of this little town? And then it boils down to them saying like, no, let's make a place where all nations can belong. And that's the start of Republic City, is this one little location. It was just a small little town where people were like, no, we love each other. Yeah, it was an invasion, but we grew to love each other. So it's very well written, very cool. That same issue, I think, Toph is starting a earthbending school or whatever. Like it's very, very cool, which of course will eventually become into a police force thing.
Damn. Well.
Yeah. All right, it's getting long on the tooth, but Jonathan, who is this episode brought to you by?
Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 is now available on DVD and Blu-ray with over 2 hours of special features. Generations of blood have led to this. Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2. Own a piece of the legacy now on DVD and Blu-ray.
Today I'm with Barry Lyga, author of many books, 27 books, including Thanos, Titan Consumed, a series of flash books. We got Wolverine Worst Day, and of course, I Hunt Killers. How are you doing, Barry?
I am doing great, Frank. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Can you tell us a little bit about your writing career? I would love to know, you started off, you know, in Yale, you started in comics, and then you shifted over to writing so many books. What was that like going from comic books to novels?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the writing was always there from the beginning. It was there before the comics. It was there before Yale. You know, I wanted to be a writer since I was 6 or 7 years old. It just took me a really, really long time to figure out how to make it work and to get good enough. You know, it's like anything else, you got to work at it. And, you know, so when I got out of college, I went and worked in the comic book industry because I love comic books. I mean, I'm an enormous comic book geek. So I worked in the comic book industry and I wrote some pretty terrible comics while I was in the comic book industry. And then one day I had this idea, you know, I wanted to publish books, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I'd written a couple books that nobody wanted to publish, of course. And then I had this idea for a book based on my own childhood about a kid who loved comics and was bullied for it and goes to a comic book convention to meet his heroes and comes away a little disappointed. And I called it The Astonishing Adventures of Fanboy and Goth Girl. And it was this ridiculous title, which I thought, well, nobody's going to publish it anyway, so it doesn't matter what the title is. And wouldn't you know it, that's the book that got me published. That's the one where a bunch of publishers fought over it. And there was a bidding war and an auction and all that. And that book came out in 2006. And I've just been too stupid to stop ever since. I've been doing it ever since. So yeah, it's 27 books out so far. And I just sold the 28th a little while ago. And I think we're coming up on maybe selling 29 and 30 as well. So the people who don't like me, sorry, I'm going to be around for a while.
Oh, well, they better get on board. When you started off in the comic book industry, what from that did you pull forward into your current writing career?
Well, I mean, I have ended up doing a lot of comic book or comic book adjacent stuff, even in my writing career. Like I said, my first novel was about a kid who worships Brian Michael Bendis and is trying to create his own graphic novel and wants to show it to Bendis at a comic book convention. So, there was that I brought in. And then obviously, the Flash books that I wrote, the Thanos book, the Wolverine book, that brought stuff in. But I think, for me too, there's something about the pacing of a comic book that I brought in. And also this idea that you don't have to be one kind of writer. Comic book writers, have a guy write Batman and then write, I don't know, Doctor Strange, or look at that. My favorite contemporary comic book writer is Mark Waid. Look at all the different kinds of stories Mark has told over his career. He could have just been the Flash guy. He could have just been the I love the Silver Age guy. But no, he gave us Irredeemable. He gave us Ruse when he was at CrossGen. I could go on. Potter's Field was a really great, interesting, weird mystery series. And I really took that in, and I really took that lesson to heart. That you don't just have to tell one kind of story. Even in one particular comic book, look at Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing back in the day. I'm an old man, so all my comic book references are from the 80s. But you look at Alan Moore's Swamp Thing back in the day, and one issue he's fighting the Floronic Man. Okay, that's a superhero story. And then another issue is just one of his tubers falls off in the swamp, and a guy eats it and has a hallucinogenic experience, and that's 22 pages of just bizarre acid trip. And that's all in the same comic, related to the same character. And I really learned from that you can it's all about the story. Don't let these ideas of genre or these norms hem you in. Just tell a good story and people will respond.
Has there been in all your, what we're at now, almost 30 books, has there been anything that's been a real difficult challenge for you that maybe was just so far out of your norm that you had to sit back and think about it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I sat down to write I Hunt Killers, it was the first time I was writing for publication from a third person point of view. My other books had all been first person. And I decided that this is a thriller and I want to be able to cut away from the main character sometimes to maintain tension. And that took a second for me to go, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I mean, it's not like I didn't know how to do it, but it was a mind shift for me. And another thing I can think of, and your listeners might find this funny, I'm a huge comic book geek, and I love the characters, and I love Superman in particular. And I got to the point in my Flash series where I got to write Superman. I knew Superman was going to be in book 5 of the Flash series, and I sat down to start, and I froze up. And I've been writing Flash and all these other characters, Green Arrow and all these other guys for a while. I just froze up. I was like, "Because this is Superman,"
Yeah.
And I remember I emailed Mark Waid. And I said, Mark, I'm freaking out, man. I'm about to write Superman. I'm going to put words in Superman's mouth, and I'm freaking out. What do I do? And he was so kind and so sweet. And he emailed me back. He said, look, he goes, you got this. You know the character. You love the character. There's nothing I can tell you about Superman that you don't already know. And then he proceeded to do like a page and a half of like the perfect graduate level course in Superman. Here's how I see Superman. Here's how I think of him. Here's how I tell his story. And it was just a condensed like nugget of Plutonian goodness. And I read it, and then at the very end he goes, but again, you don't need any of that because you've got this. You're fine. Go do it. And I was like, and it was so sweet of him to take the time to do that. And it just helped. It helped me to get past my, oh my God, I'm writing Superman. and go ahead and do it. And I wrote Superman, and I think I did okay with it. So yeah.
I think you need to frame that email from Mark, and that's amazing.
I should do something with it. Yeah.
That is so cool. Let's talk about the Flash series. So did you work hand in hand with CW for this? Because it's inspired by the CW version of Flash.
Yeah. It was funny. You know, I got a call from the publisher at Abrams Books, who was a guy named Andrew Smith, who I'd known for years. And he said to me, look, you know, we just signed a deal with Warner Brothers to do a series of books based on the Flash TV show. And I said, what do I have to pay you to be the writer? And he said, no, we'll pay you, because the Superman is up there, but the Flash is probably my favorite comic book character. And he said, no, we'll pay you. You can do it. And it was funny because originally I was trying to tie it in with the show. That was the plan, that it's going to tie in with the show. And with the very first book, we realized that with the pace that the show moved at and the pace that publishing moves at, it wasn't going to work to tie them together. And that was when Andrew came up with this great idea. He said, what if the books are set in an alternate timeline where Barry never went back in time at the end of season 2 to create Flashpoint? What if instead the story just picks up from the end of season 2 as if Flashpoint never happened? And CW was like, that sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah.
And so that made me realize I had my own version of the DC universe then, where I could do whatever I wanted, because I wasn't beholden. All I was beholden to were the first 2 seasons of the show. Other than that, I could do whatever I wanted. And it wouldn't affect the show. And so I had a lot of fun with that. And I did work with them. I mean, they read everything that I wrote, and they approved every word that went on the page. I will say they had very little that they asked me not to do. They were very, very willing to let me. I think they trusted me. And they were really willing to let me go hog wild. I think the only thing that they wouldn't let me do, there were 2 things. One, they didn't want me to use H.R. Wells, which was the version of Harrison Wells who dies at the end of season 3. And I thought, well, in my version, he wouldn't have died, so he could still be around. So, and I liked the character, so I wrote him into one of the books, and they said, you know, could you just not use him, because, you know, and I'm like, that's fine. So I used him in a flashback, and then just said he went off to find himself in the world, you know. And then the other thing was I kept trying to sneak Green Lantern into the book.
Oh man.
Because I really like Green Lantern. So I kept, and they haven't used him on the show, and I kept trying to sneak him in. And and I don't know why, because I used a lot of characters they didn't use on the show. I mean, a ton of characters. But for some reason, Green Lantern, they were like, no, just don't. And I'm like, okay. And then I tried to sneak him in again. No, don't. So, but you know, that's okay. Considering what they let me get away with. I mean, I got to use the Legion of Superheroes. I got to use the Crime Syndicate of America. I got to use Antimatter Man from an old 70s Justice League story. I mean, considering the things I got to do, I can't really complain that they said, please don't use Green Lantern. So, yeah.
First off, then that puts you in this whole mind space of like, were they planning on using a Green Lantern on their own at some point?
I mean, I know that at the time there was a lot of talk about Greg Berlanti doing a Green Lantern show. And so maybe that was it. But again, like, I was using all kinds of other characters that weren't on the show, and it was an alternate timeline, so it didn't really matter. I don't know why that was just a thing. Maybe somebody said at some point, hey, let's not use Green Lantern anywhere. And it just filtered down. And then everybody was just like, we're just not going to use Green Lantern. So I don't know.
What is the most outlandish character that you were able to use?
I mean, for me personally, I had I showed the origin of Bouncing Boy in book 3 with the dialogue lifted right from the 1960s era adventure comics. Where I showed his origin, and that seemed ridiculous to me that I did that, but I did. And but wow, I mean, there were so many characters. I love the Crime Syndicate. If you could see my shelf back there, I've got all the Crime Syndicate figures, the original like Earth 3 pre-crisis Crime Syndicate. I got to use them, and that was a lot of fun. It was fun to use the Phantom Stranger.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I just literally had him like show up in a couple of books, and like nobody knew who he was, and they were just like, "Oh, it's a guy in a cape and a hat," and then he walks away.
Yeah.
And then at the very last book, I had him introduce the story the way that he used to introduce stories back in the Bronze Age, where there would be a splash page of him saying, introducing what was about to happen and say, I know these things for I am a stranger. And then he would walk away. And I did that in the book. Probably the craziest thing I did was I used Ambush Bug. I introduced the Flash version of Ambush Bug, which to this day, I cannot believe nobody said, Barry, no, do not do that. But I did it, and I had him going, whoop, 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 and I had him teleporting places, and I even did like in the old Ambush Bug things, it was all metafiction. He would like talk to Keith Giffen like in the comics, and I had him he was talking to me in the book.
My God.
And that's probably the craziest thing I did. And at that point, I think honestly, I was just showing off. Like I knew they trusted me. I knew they would let me do whatever I wanted. And I'm like, okay, fanboys, here you go. I'm going to use Ambush Bug. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's gotta be a blast to try to find something, these little nuggets, and bring them back. Like to me, I always want someone to try to make Condiment King cool. Like he's always the punching bag. I would love for someone to try to take a serious take on him and just see what that would look like,
Yeah, I mean, I always Jerry Conway, this was very sweet. I didn't know Jerry at all before he said this, but he got a hold of these Flash books of mine and he read them and he posted it online. He said, as far as I'm concerned, the best superhero prose out there is Barry Lyga's Flash books. And he said, you can tell reading them that he doesn't take himself seriously, but he takes the work very seriously. Oh, wow. And I was like, you know what? That's like the nicest thing you could say to an author, I think.
Yeah.
And it felt really good to have him say that, especially somebody whose work I admire so much. And that's sort of how I felt about it. I was like, let me find all these things I love about the DC universe and find a way to use them in these stories. That's what it was. I mean, it was a love letter to these characters, I mean, because I've loved them since I was 5 years old and started reading comics.
Yeah. Let's shift from Marvel or from DC to Marvel and talk about Thanos, Titan Consumed. Now, first off, how did you get involved with Marvel, and was it specifically meant as an MCU tie-in, or was this comic book standalone?
Yeah, I got a call one day from my agent. We were talking about something completely unrelated to Thanos, and then she goes, "Oh," at the end of the conversation, she goes, "Oh, and I almost forgot. I'm going to be talking to your publisher later because they have some project they want to ask you about." And I'm like, "Oh, okay," which is weird because that's not usually how it happens. Usually, I write something and bring it to them. But I went, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Yeah, do you know what my agent is not into superheroes at all?" And she goes, "Do you know what Thanos means?" And I went, "Yeah." She goes, "It's something about Thanos." And I'm like, "Okay, call him right now, please. I'd like to know what this is." And so I ended up talking to them, and they said, "Look, the studio has gotten in touch with us, and they said they've got this origin for Thanos, but they don't have room for it in the movie in Infinity War,
right?
And so they want a book that will go into his origin, and we'll tell his story that can come out after Infinity War, but before the next one. We didn't know it was called Endgame yet."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, wow." And they say, "Is that something you could do?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." So I signed roughly 500 NDAs. And then I talked to the studio, and they told me, the basic, I mean, the upshot of what you saw in Infinity War, which is, hey, I knew that things were going to go bad on Titan, and I tried to tell them and said, we got to kill 50% of us, and they thought I was crazy and kicked me out, and now and so now I've gone to do that for the whole universe. And that was basically what they gave me of for his origin. And I'm like, okay, like, well, that's not enough to make a book out of, you know? So I need to go into more detail and explicate a little more. And I knew the character, obviously. And the difference between, working with the studio and working with DC was like, hey, you're in your own timeline, just do whatever you want. Marvel was very much like, we don't want you using any other characters, because I was like, oh, I'll use Grandmaster, and I'll use, the Collector, and this guy, I'll use all the space guys. And they were like, no, And I understand that because they weren't sure yet what they were going to do with those characters on the screen. And I could do something that would mess up a plan or something like that. So that was a little bit disappointing because, again, one of the reasons you like to do these things, these work for hire assignments, you don't get paid a huge amount. The
Right.
deal isn't that great. You do it because you love the world and you want to contribute to it. So I couldn't use, a warlock or any of those characters that I would have used. But I got to make up my own characters, and I got to put words in Thanos' mouth, and I got to figure out how you get from. I always say, like the story of Thanos isn't the story of a guy who decides he's going to kill half the universe. It's the story of a guy who goes, "Yeah, I have no choice. I have to kill half the universe." And not only is that the best idea, but I'm the guy to do it, and I know how. Like it's that ego leap. It's that ego leap from. I mean, we all sit around and BS and go, it would be great if somebody did blank. It's leap. It's that leap to, I'm going to do it, and I know how to do it. and to me, that was what I wanted to get at in the book was how does he get to that point? And that was a lot of fun. It was the deadline was insane. The deadline was absolutely insane. And of course, I couldn't tell anybody. Like, I had to keep it a secret for like 6 months. And all my friends were like, "What are you working on?" And I'm like, "I can't tell you." And then the day came where I could tell them, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, those movies were back to back too. There was not much room for play in between Infinity War and Endgame, so I'm sure they had you on a pretty tight line. Now, how did you address bringing? Because unlike a normal comic book project or something like that, you're bringing in people who are from the comics or from a lot of content that's already out there. And in this specific thing, you're bringing in people who probably have or might not have ever touched a comic book, who are excited about the movies and are exploring. Is there anything you changed to kind of appeal to a broader audience?
Yeah, I didn't think of it as changing things to appeal to a broader audience so much as changing things to fit what we'd already seen on screen. We knew, we comic book geeks have an idea in our head of who Thanos is from Infinity Gauntlet and years of Jim Starlin stories and that kind of thing. Right down to the Thanos copter, right?
Like, of course, I was waiting to say
it. Believe me, if I could have gotten the copter in the book, I would have. But we had all these things in mind, and those are things that people who've seen the movies only don't have in mind. All they know about Thanos is what they've seen in the movies. So I didn't want to have to rely on any sort of specific comic book knowledge to carry the story. So really, for me. And the other thing too is this wasn't a comic book; it's a novel. Comic books are really good at certain things and really bad at certain things. And prose is really good at certain things and really bad at other things. And so I wanted to lean into the strengths of prose. And one of the deepest strengths that prose has is you can really get into the psyche of your characters. You can get very, very deeply into the psyche. And that's what I wanted to do was really get into Thanos' head and really look at what makes this guy tick, what makes him think. And it's funny because there's stuff, again, like I wrote this book before Infinity War came out. I hadn't seen Infinity War yet.
Yeah.
And so I was going based on the little scraps the studio gave me, and then what we'd all seen in the movies, and then what I came up with based on that. And then I remember sitting in the theater, the midnight showing of Infinity War, and going, I nailed it. This is like, I looked on the screen, I was like, this is my guy. Like down to, there's the bit at the end when he tells Thor, you should have gone for the head, right?
Yeah.
There's a bit at the end of my book where he tells Gamora she had killed some guy for him. She said, you should have aimed for his head. And I wrote that.
Oh, so satisfying.
I wrote that a month before I saw Infinity War. Yeah. And I was like, I almost jumped up in the theater and went, yes, that's exactly right. People were like, who the hell is this guy? So that was really satisfying to see, that I, as a writer, that was kind of cool that I'd managed to piece together the character correctly from the scraps that I had. But that to me was the big thing, was getting into his head and figuring out not just the why of, oh, I'll kill half the universe, but the why of, this is why I'm going to do it. I'm not going to leave it up to somebody else. I'm going to do it. And here's how I've got it planned out from step A to step Z.
All right. Well, the other thing I want to make, if we're going to be talking about comic books, we have to talk about Free Comic Book Day. You had
Sure.
a hand in developing this. Can you kind of tell the story on that one?
Yeah. A retailer, a store owner named Joe Field, who has a great store, Flying Colors Comics, out in the Bay Area. He noticed one day that Baskin Robbins every summer had a free scoop day, and he noticed there were lines around the block, and they did a great business on that day. And he thought, what if we did free comics? And so he wrote this letter. This is children. This is back when there were magazines, and you wrote letters to the magazines. And he wrote this letter into Comics Retailer Magazine, where he said, "Hey, as an industry, what if we did this?" And you have to understand too, this was like 2000 ish. When comics were in a deep, deep hole.
Yeah.
And this is before the first Spider-Man movie came out. I mean, this was, it's a bad time for comics. He said, what if we did this? This could help our industry. And I was working at Diamond Comic Distributors at the time. I was in the marketing department. And I got called into the office of the VP of my department. And he said, hey, did you see Joe's letter in Comics Retailer? I said, yeah. He goes, you think that's a good idea? I said, I actually do. Like, we've been saying for years, like, the industry needs to do something, like, as an industry, and nobody's done anything. And yes, I think, this is a fine thing to do. And he said, all right, you're in charge, make it happen.
Oh boy. Big project.
And I said, what's my budget? And he said, you don't have a budget. So yeah, it was, the operations side of Diamond was in charge of getting all the books together, and the purchasing side of Diamond was in charge of getting publishers on board. But as I like to say, Free Comic Book Day by its nature is a marketing event. And it doesn't matter if the books exist if nobody goes into a store to get them. So I spent the next 6 months of my life cold calling every human being I could think of who could possibly help get the word out to make Free Comic Book Day happen. And by some miracle, it worked.
Yeah.
That first year, it was a success. People were really happy with it. And we all looked at each other and said, let's do it again. And this time I got a budget, not a very big one, mind you, but there was something at least. And I did it for 4 or 5 years, for the first 4 or 5 years before I quit to focus on my writing. And there was a part of me that wanted it to fall apart after I left.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, a little bit.
Like, you can't do that without me.
Yeah.
But I'm really pleased. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it got bigger and bigger. And now I have kids, and every Free Comic Book Day, I take them to the comic book store, and I'm like, Daddy made this happen. They're like, whatever. But the people behind the counter are like, you're my hero, man. I'm like, see, kids, see, Daddy does things. So no, I think it is one of those things where, again, as comic book people, we had always wanted the industry to do something, anything as an industry, not something that benefits DC or Marvel or the indies, or something that benefits everybody, something that brings everybody together, something we can all agree on. And we found it, and it worked. And I hope it continues, with the Diamond bankruptcy and everything. I don't know who will be in control of it or anything like that. I'm hoping it continues past this year. We'll see.
Yeah. Now, I think a key with it was, taking down some of the barriers of accessibility for people interested in comic books. Is there something you see that could also be removed as a barrier to comic books for the next generation of readers?
Yeah. For God's sake, stop recommending Watchmen to people.
Oh,
sorry.
That's definitely not a new comic book reader book. Absolutely.
That is my pet peeve. That's been my pet peeve for like 30 years. I love Watchmen. Like, I bow to no one in my admiration of Watchmen, but it is not for new readers. Like, you have to understand 50 years worth of superhero comics to understand what they were doing in Watchmen. And it drives me up a wall. But I think the biggest barriers have been the availability. I think, you need more stores. I think the fact that I know this is difficult for my friends who own comic book stores to hear, but I think the fact that you've got, a flowering e-comics industry, and the fact that you've got graphic novels in Barnes and Noble and independent bookstores, I think that helps. I think it helps that stuff's in libraries, because a lot of people aren't going to go to a bespoke store, to pick up something they don't even know if they're going to enjoy it. You need to get people hooked first. People need to find that they're interested in it before you can tell them, did you know there's a special store just catering to this stuff. And if they're like, I've never read a comic book, why would I go to a comic book store? Start them off with, get them in with the other stuff. And then, hey, by the way, there are these great stores where they have everything you can imagine, and they can tell you what you should read next. And then eventually you can read this thing called Watchmen that, may or may not blow your mind. We have to remind ourselves that thing is 40 years old at this point. It has issues now. But I think that's probably one of the biggest things. We also have to remember too that, a comic book's not going to be for everybody. There are some people, comics I actually did a whole study on this years ago. It is very complicated for some people to derive meaning from the synthesis of words and art at the same time. Mm-hmm. Their brain just doesn't work that way. And they have a lot of difficulty, reading the word and getting meaning from the picture at the same time. These people are not stupid by any means. It's just everybody's brain works differently. And there are some people who are going to look at a comic book and just go, this makes no sense to me. I don't understand why this is too much work, or it's just a mess. But I think and hope that, the broader availability, will make it easier. I do wish that there was, right now, if you want to read comics on, say, your iPad or something like that, your options are to download the apps from the publishers or to use Comixology at Amazon. And I kind of wish that there was another alternative there. Not everybody wants to give their money to Amazon. And when you're looking at the publisher apps, I mean, that's great to have a DC app, but then you're not going to see Marvel stories or Image or Fantagraphics or drawing, any of this other stuff. And so I wish there was, when Comixology was its own thing, I thought that was great. And I wish there was something like that again, like an independent source of all comics electronically. And I know there's a couple little things here and there out there, but in general, to get your weekly comic fix electronically, you either have to go to a publisher app or to Amazon. And I'd like there to be another option.
I wish there was. Yeah, because with the Marvel and DC app, you pay a subscription to each of them. And so, like, personally, I have Comixology. And, of course, the things that touch that app are usually 6 months out of date. And so you can't really stay up to date if you wanted to. But it's really good for reading the classics or whatever. And I find, as a comic book reader, and I think it's with age, too, I am so much more into trades than I am to the weekly thing. And my friends in the comic book industry or in the comic book shops have said, like, we're starting to see people go for trades more nowadays. So I wonder if there's a way to lean in on that or something like that. And if you guys are new to comics trading, the best thing you could do, my biggest advice, is go to your local comic shop, tell them what you're into. They'll find the book for you. And they know.
Yeah, a good comic book store will be able to go, oh, you like, I don't know. Now I'm blanking on everything. I don't know. You like Game of Thrones? Here's a comic that'll scratch that itch. You like, you like John Grisham? Here's a comic that'll scratch that itch. Whatever it is. We haven't quite hit the Japanese standard yet, where there's literally a comic book of every topic you can imagine. But over the past 20 years, there's a lot of subject matter out there that's available in comics.
And a big array of topics and difficulty too. Like there's some very mature comics and stuff like going back to Alan Moore and Watchmen. If you like a lot of text, more text than picture sometimes, then check out Watchmen. It's a heck of a read. But it's definitely dated. Let's get everybody pointed in the right direction. You have I Hunt Killers, a prequel coming out. Can you give a quick synopsis to what that is and where people can find it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the I Hunt Killers series came out a few years back. And what I had done was, between the books coming out, I had done these short stories online, which were these prequel stories about the characters, sort of just getting into things that I couldn't get into in the books. There wasn't room to get into in the books. And there were a couple short stories and there were a couple of novellas. And people really loved them, but they kept emailing me and saying, hey, I want these in print. And I was like, well, you can't publish a 30-page thing in print. Like, there's no way to make money at that, blah, blah, blah. But for like 10 years, people kept bugging me about it. And finally, dummy that I am, I realized, well, I could just do it as an anthology. I could combine them all together into an anthology, add a new story that nobody's ever seen before, and I could do this anthology. And I went to my publisher and I said, hey, why don't we do this? And they said, we'd love to, but anthologies are a really tough sale, and people don't like anthologies. I'm like, but people are asking for it. We went back and forth and they said, we're going to pass. So I had my Thanos at the end of Age of Ultron moment where I said, fine, I'll do it myself. And I put the book out there, and it's called Before the Hunt. And it is the prequels. It's 7 different stories of varying lengths, focusing on different characters from the trilogy and things that happened to them before the trilogy. And I'm really happy with it. And I think there's some really good stories in there. One of them is the single most disturbing story I have ever written. And I've written some really, really brutal and rough stuff in my career, man. But this story that I wrote in this anthology is like, I read it and I went, oh, I am going straight to hell. Like, there is no saving throw. Like, when I die, straight to hell.
No saving throw. I love it.
No. So that's in there, if you want to see what that's all about. But yeah, it's called, like I said, it's called Before the Hunt. It's out everywhere. It's bookshop.org, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere, all the usual places. And people can go to my website, barrylyga.com, to see more about it if they want.
So we'll have links to Before the Hunt, and then we'll also have links to your website because it's a really good place to see your complete body of work. Barry, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Frank, this has been terrific. I really appreciate it.
All right, let's move to a field trip. Squeaks, you went to San Francisco to the new Nintendo store. What was that like?
I did. So I had the pleasure of being lucky enough to get a reservation for the opening weekend, and man, that place was phenomenal in a way. I would say it's probably not as immaculate as like the New York one. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you get there, right, and it's right in Union Square. It's literally cool. It's across the street, literally across the street from like when they usually do like the Christmas tree and the ice skating, whatnot. And you see like Nintendo everywhere, and you got the beautiful like window that's plastered with like the characters that are walking in a row, like it's some type of Beatles thing, right? Mm-hmm. So going there, they did a really great job. I was expecting to kind of have like a bad experience of getting into the store, but they did a really good job in ensuring that when it's your time slot, that you get pretty close in to the store when your time happens. So as soon as you walk in there, you got your big statue of Mario. You're like, I fucking made it, right? So to your left. So this is a 2-story store. So you get on the first level and you actually go downstairs. Something different that New York has is obviously you're on the first floor and then you go up with a massive Mario sitting on that flagpole, like the iconic, right? Jump on the flagpole, goes down. That's what it is in New York. Here it doesn't have that. You're actually going downstairs. So you're like not in the same world. It feels like when you walk into that store, you're like, you are in something like Nintendo, where it feels, I was walking up and down probably like 4 or 5 times. I did not want to leave. I was in there for an hour just looking at the same stuff over and over. So each section is separated. You got your basic like Mario type stuff with Donkey Kong, and then you got your Animal Crossing, and then you go down to the second floor, you got your Zelda, Splatoon, and Pikmin. So it's separated per sections like that, with like random things sprinkled in here and there.
Yeah,
right?
That's by the way, that recently came out that's the top, or that's the flagpole 5 for Nintendo, and it's weird to me to think that Pikmin is one of them. When it's like, what happened to Kirby? What happened to Yoshi? What happened to Donkey Kong, who should have his own? But go ahead. Continue. I thought it was weird that
I wonder if they kind of mix those into the. I wonder if they would kind of mix those into the Mario universe. I guess you kind of say, right?
Must be like kind of really especially with like the movie and like Smash Brothers and stuff. Apparently, what it is in Japan, Splatoon and Pikmin are huge. Like Splatoon is like one of the number 1 shooters in Japan. So that's why. But like here in the U.S., they're like, whatever,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I did wear my Splatoon sweater and I bought some Splatoon socks, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so each of those things have like this massive statue. So you walk in there, you saw Mario, right? You go to the Zelda area, you got a massive statue of a Link. And then the same goes going forward and whatnot. So like, but at the same, also what they have for like games and stuff, right? They got this massive TV that people were playing Mario Kart. They were encouraging people to come on over. And what was really cool too is being their opening weekend is that besides the hype of just walking in there, right? Was that you got this commemorative coin saying like, hey, you were here type thing. So it's beautiful. It's colorful. I had a blast there. I'm planning on going for the Switch release because I do have a reservation with that as well. but some things might get in the way. So if I don't go during a Switch release, then I'll be there on the 16th. So John,
You gotta go for the Switch release. That would be incredible.
I know, but I got family things that might get in the way, and I don't want to force a trip because I want to enjoy the trip. So yeah. So we'll see. I have a reservation if things change, and I try to make my way over there. But
okay.
Yeah, it definitely does have me. I've said it before. I've been enjoying my time lately. Each trip to San Francisco. It's kind of like a love-hate thing, but I really enjoyed my time last time. I was just walking around by myself, got some good ramen from across the way, but and then came back to the store. And this now is going to make me always want to go, to be honest. Like if I ever go to San Francisco, I'm definitely stopping into the Nintendo store.
How heavily did they lean into creating an atmosphere versus making sure that merchandise is available to buy?
What do you mean? Like the merchants, like making sure they have enough?
Did it feel more like a store or more like they were trying to create a Nintendo environment?
Like a gallery.
Yeah. So they did a great job at theming the sections and merchandise. Now, if you're talking about like the environment, the only thing that was really there was more of
the statues,
the Switch. No, the Switch setup for people to play like Mario Kart on this massive screen. I would have loved like if you had like little gimmicky things like Universal has, where like you got blocks and you hit them and you make the coin sounds.
That's what I was kind of thinking. If they lean into
so
those,
that's not really there.
Okay.
So it's mostly based on like the merchandise and like the big statues at each section and the theming of tailored to what you wanted to buy.
Okay.
I mean, that'd be cool to see something like that in the future, but I just don't see the space. Like they really jam packed it with things in there. And they also, you know what? I got to give props to them. They had an amazing amount of inventory. I should have wore it for this one. I'll wear it for the next episode. I bought this Donkey Kong fleece. So you put the hood on and your hair sticks Donkey Kong hair sticks up.
That's cool.
But it was out. I was there. They only had one size. So I'm like, fuck, this is the one thing I super wanted. After walking around, I see one guy walking out of a door with a bunch of them in his hand. I was like, you got an extra large? He's like, dude, it was meant to be. I was like, fuck yes, it was. So
that's my next question for you is how much, if you don't mind saying, how much did you spend in this place?
I
can edit this out if you don't want Sarah to
No. She grabbed the receipt real quick. I was like, damn, you don't want to see anything else I got? Fine.
That's the main thing.
So I was being smart. I had to put some things back, but I spent $260-ish.
Okay, not bad for Squeaks.
Yeah. Because I was expecting $5. Yeah, around there. So I'll have my next go around here in a couple weeks. So
there we go.
Yeah, I was putting things back. I was like, do I need this? Oh, I really want this. I don't want to. Yeah. But it was an awesome store. I love being there. I'll definitely go in there every single time.
We got Fan Expo again in November, so I'll be swinging by for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to going again. Yeah, we'll be there in November, so I'll make sure to swing by then. We have a lot of conventions this year, and that reminds me, June 14th, guys, go to the Capital Creative Showcase. We're going to be emceeing. It'll be Sexy Frank on the mic and Bold Jonathan. Ooh. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a cool name for you, John. Bold Jonathan on the mic too.
We're like, please don't come up with one.
Hopefully Squeaks will be there. It's not the beginning of the month. It's like the first convention that's not the beginning of the month in the local area. So hopefully Squeaks can join us.
Yeah.
It'll be at the Library Galleria this time. So that'll be nice.
Library Galleria.
Yeah, it looks really nice too.
Yeah, it's beautiful now. All right, so let's circle around the network and see what we got going on. So over at Fandom Portals, they're doing Ready or Not. That movie is so fun. So they're doing Ready or Not. Over at Challenge Accepted, I challenged Thomas to watch, because he had me watch Pride and Prejudice, guys. What?
No,
was
really?
It good?
Okay.
Oh, I literally had a hard time falling asleep, so I had to start watching TikTok during it. That's how bad that movie was.
That's one of the most, one of the more iconic movies, though.
It was 2005, the Kieran Knightley one. Is that the one you watched?
Yeah.
I couldn't. It was. Yeah. I am gentle in my discussion on it, guys, on Challenge Accepted. So check that out. Guys. But I challenged him to Galaxy Quest, so that's where we're going.
He's never seen Galaxy Quest.
He actually has seen Galaxy Quest, but we put it up for a vote on the threads, and that it was between that and Shaun of the Dead, which I was like, I'm happy either way.
It's a win-win. Those are both great movies.
It really was. Oh man. Over at Distance Learning, they're talking about a little bit of everything, but they're specifically X-Men being teased by the Avengers. They're digging into that one. Over on Anime Plus, so the latest episode is the top 10 animes that will define the 2020s. But right now, and it's their very first time going, guys, I'm so excited for them. That as press, they're going to Boston Anime, the biggest anime convention on the East Coast, and they're going as press. They got the glasses with a camera inside, so they could film as they're walking around. I'm so happy for those guys. They're really excited about it. It's their first time, so it's neat. Over at Outlast Podcast, we just had the season 12 finale. So if you want to catch up on that, go check that out, guys. Good winner. Not the winner I necessarily wanted, but yeah, we won't spoil that. Let's finish things off with our recommendations for the week. Jonathan, we're going to start with you. What is your recommendation for the week?
Oh man, my recommendation. I'm still just working on the one I talked about earlier. I can't remember the name of the show. I'm not super in love with it either.
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, there you go. Yeah, I'm still working on Peacemaker. I don't think I really have anything else to recommend. I mean, if you haven't read any of the Avatar comics, definitely go find those and read them. I love the Avatar comics. I have one of the trades I still haven't read yet too, so I need to crack that open. But yeah, that's my recommendation.
What about you, Squeaks?
So I'm like been super reading a lot of Star Wars comics. And the one that kind of like really reminds me of Andor a little bit. And if you don't feel like reading the novel of it, and because we'll probably see them later, but they have a comic version of the novel, which is going to be the Star Wars just Thrawn. And I bring up Andor because it's really like heavily on the political side of things instead of like a lot of like the action and lightsabers and shit like that. So if you don't feel like reading the novel, too many pages or something like that, and you know someone who want to see some imagery with the like the same story being told, I definitely recommend Star Wars Thrawn. I forgot the year it was whatever release, but that's all it is. That's all it's called. So essentially, once we get Ahsoka season 2, then I'm sure we'll see more of him. And if you want some backstory on him, then just go ahead and check that out.
There we go, guys. Is it Heir to the Empire, basically retold Heir to the Empire storyline? Do you know?
I'll have to look.
That's okay. It's a Thrawn story. It's likely that.
Yeah, it is retold of a Thrawn novel, so that could be that one. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that does sound pretty good. For me, I'm going to suggest you guys play Marvel Rivals. The season is the 2.5 new patch comes out on the 30th. So if you guys like how the game is in this current state, this is the time to play as much as you can, because once that comes out, there's going to be a lot of reworks. Jeff, the Land Shark, is like getting totally changed. And there's going to be new team ups and things like that. So this is a really good time to jump in. I'm almost plat and getting there pretty good.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, okay. When I play by myself and I don't have to carry Squeaks or whatever, it helps a bunch.
What's it even like to play a game anymore? So.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. You were literally playing a game this morning.
I have to wake up at the crack of fucking dawn to get some time in.
Hey, look. I agree. You guys are the ones that set the schedule right now. I'm like down on coffee and ready to take a nap right after this one. Or I shouldn't even take a nap. Finish my sleeping for the night.
Yeah, go back to bed.
Yeah. That's why we're a little punchy this episode, as we're all still waking up. But yeah, so it's a good time to play Marvel Rivals, guys, right now before everything starts changing again for 2.5. And Ultron will come out for that too, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Have yourself a great week. Bye.
Bye.